Hi everyone. I decided that I would do a video today. I'm probably maybe going to do a couple, who knows. The first one I'm going to do is just a tag that was out there, 25 deep questions and video response. I think Helen Carter. I actually saw this by Mary Grace Farron, and I've decided I'm going to answer these questions. I'm going to try. I mean, anybody that's watched any of my videos, I do tend to go on a bit, and sometimes they're quite long. But here, we'll give it a whirl, and let's see if I can keep this, keep it moving, and let's not have it too long. Okay, so the 25 deep questions. Are you living a meaningful life? I would say yes, I am living a meaningful life. And I guess when you really think of that question, I think you would have to determine whether you're happy or not and whether you feel fulfilled, because I think what's meaningful to someone obviously is not going to be the same. So if I look at my life objectively, I would say yes, I'm living a meaningful life. I'm very fortunate because I'm in the nursing profession, and I have spent a great deal of my life taking care of people. Now I'm more on like the peer review insurance kind of end of it, but so it's not really patient care contact, but I still am arranging and coordinating things for people for their health. So every day that's beneficial when you can help someone that needs, a claim processed, and you're part of that, the cog in the wheel, unfortunately, the way it goes. So yes, and every day that I feel like I've helped somebody and I'm able to speak to them, I do get to talk to people, and they tell me about their situations, and I like to be a sympathetic ear to them. I can't physically be there and helping them, but I can assist them in the process and making sure that I can get them where they need to be in that process, and so that it goes smoothly. And just with my family, in my everyday life, I believe I do make an impact. And I also look at my children, my two boys, how I've raised them, and the people that they come in contact with them in their lives. I've had a part of that. So it's kind of like, the tossing the stone across the pond and the ripples. I believe that everything you do is connected, and there is an outcome. We may not be able to see it right away, but it is there. And so I kind of try to live my life that way, that any decision or anything that I have as far as what I do impacts someone. And that can be just being nice to somebody in a supermarket, in a store, or anything. It makes a difference how you treat people. And I'm a firm believer of how that everything, if you cause a positive effect, you're going to get the benefits of that. And the same if you cause negativity, then you'll be getting that back at you too. Number 2, what's the one thing you cannot live without? I would say right now, the one thing that I could not possibly live without is my beliefs. And I say that because over the years, my spiritual path was not what it is today. And I was not, and this is actually probably going to connect to another question about being empowered, but the first half of my life, I was raised, I think I mentioned it before, in the Catholic Church, but just overall, I think just raising, and my parents were older parents. I was raised in the 60s, and a lot of that mentality was, this is what you do. Girls do this, boys do that. Well, yeah, okay, you can go to college, but the ultimate goal is for you to have a family, and like there was no control. And or if bad things happen to you, well, that's just the way it is, and you have a bad life or something happens, that there is no, there's nothing for you in this life. It's all in the next life, and don't question why things happen to you, and just accept the kind of things that bad things will happen, and you just go on, or you don't talk about them. That was a big thing too in my day. You never talked about anything bad that happened to somebody next door, or a lot of it was superstitious. Well, you're going to bring it on yourself, but you just don't talk about it. And yeah, I don't believe, like I was raised with, there is, like, nothing happens, like there is no hidden meaning behind anything, you know. Things happen for a reason was not really something that I grew up with. It wasn't that what they exactly happened for a reason, they just happened. And you didn't really have any control of it. So I would say the most important thing now that I could not possibly live without, because I would never want to go back to the point in my life where I felt I didn't have control over my life. And I absolutely believe 100% that you do. You create everything, and everything you do, it's not helpless. If something bad has happened to you, it's tough. People don't want to hear it, and they don't want to hear it, but you brought it on. And it's either because you're going through life not realizing you have any control, and you're being led by circumstances, and if you get yourself into a position where everything bad happens, and if you can just count how many times you say something negative, or something negative enters your mind, and what that makes you feel like, and how that can just spiral. And it just sucks you in. And there has been tragedies and all kinds of horrible circumstances throughout history. And on the other side of that, in every horrible situation, there's someone that is not affected by that horrible situation. They somehow come through it. And I believe it's how you deal with something. And being in the medical profession as well, you can see, even in healing, that someone that has a positive attitude, that they're going to overcome something. And I'm not saying they're cured. I'm not going to say that people are cured or not cured. And yes, that happens too. And there isn't a medical reason. But there is also how someone deals with an illness, or how that illness progresses, has a lot to do on the way the person is, how involved they are with their own care. If there's a feeling of hopelessness, and you can just see the difference. That's all I'm saying. I'm not here to say that someone can cure themselves. I believe it's possible. I also believe that we're all here for a set amount of time, to an extent. And I say that because I think, in my personal opinion, we signed up for this. So when we're going, we're meant to be going. But it's still within our realm. And if we come around, I think that's your lesson. Then you can change things. But I do believe that some of us are here on a journey with a specific reason to be here as well. So it's more of an attitude of cooperation. Let me just put it that way. Like, it matters how I think and feel. It's not just hapless being wind blown into different situations. You can control those experiences, and we came here to control those experiences. But yeah, it probably is not going to make sense to anybody else, but that's the way I feel. I feel like I have definitely manifested things in my life that years ago I never thought was possible. I did a lot of things years ago where I did manifest things in my life, but I wasn't aware I was doing it. So yeah, I couldn't give up that power. To me, it's a power, and it's empowerment, but I wouldn't want to ever be without that. So I couldn't live without that. And it is a way of being free. I mean, it doesn't matter what is going on around me. It's not what happens, it's how you react to it, and what you're going to do with it. And how you face it and move on from it. And it's not, life isn't going to be always a bowl of cherries, but it's what you're going to have to do to get through something, and doing it. And then when you come out the other end, you're better for it. You're stronger for it. When is it acceptable to ever disobey a law? I would say I think probably a law that, laws are set up obviously to protect people and to keep society running. And so there's no chaos. We try to prevent as much chaos in day-to-day as possible. So I would think the only time that you can really break a law is if you were going to rescue someone or save someone's life. If I was put in a situation where I felt what I believed in was more important than, or it was a core part of me, and I was asked to, I'm not living in a place I'm in Eastern United States, so, but if I was suddenly in a place where I had to choose a core belief or not, or if it meant, I'd have to break a law because a core belief of mine was somehow contradictive, then probably, but human life, saving someone's life, probably would override any sort of law that I came across. If I was faced with that, I would, obviously save a person and deal with the consequences of breaking a law, I suppose. Yeah, so what do you want your final words to be? Thank you. Thank you for my chance to have been and experienced being alive and being here, and everything, because there's so many that don't have a chance to live. I'm 50. I just turned 56, so and I've lost family members that were younger than I am. Many years. I've passed that in 20-something years, 30, 40 years for some of them. So every day is very precious to me, and the things that I've been able to experience being a mother, I'm just being grateful. So thank you. I love you. Yeah, those would be my final words, would be thank you, I love you. What inspires you the most? What inspires me the most? I think kindness inspires me. When I see someone doing something for someone, if it's even if I see it on TV or the news, or even in my everyday life, it inspires me to be a better person. When you hear stories of people that even do heroic things, or self-service, selfless service, like service to others, acts like that, that inspires me. People overcoming odds, that always inspires me. Yes, people striving to be better than themselves, or better than their surroundings. A lot of the times, people who are inspirational are always people I feel that are trying to unite and make the world a better place. They inspire me. It makes me feel like if they can do it, I could do it. We all could do it. So, yeah, I would think people acting in a way that they are affecting change in people's lives. That inspires me. What do you think are the 5 most beautiful things in the world? Only 5. A baby, nature, the sun, the moon. Yeah, it would probably be just this planet in general. Anything that's breathtaking. But definitely a baby, animals, pets that are in your life. They're beautiful, and yeah. So I just don't think there's just 5 of them. I think it's a lot to think that are beautiful in the world. Just family in general, having a family and being part of a family is beautiful to me, because even more so when you know that there's people out there that don't have that. So yeah, there's lots of things that I find beautiful. But nature, flowers, trees, we just went through a beautiful fall, and the leaves changing, and the way the sun can come in and just shine on the floor and reflect, and water and the ocean. Like I said, there's a lot of things that are just beautiful. I think more so people need to pay attention to, like, the simpler it is, I think the more beautiful it tends to be. What makes you feel most empowered. And this goes back to my beliefs, just on being empowered and in general, knowing that you can make a difference, knowing that you can have control over your life if you put your mind and your desires and what you want and believe it, and then keep on, that you're worth it. I think that's the biggest thing. Finally realizing and believing that you are worth the things that you want and the life that you want to create. I think a lot of people believe that, and this could be this is what, if you were raised in a family that was like, oh, you can never do that, or you can't do that, or you're this, you're a girl, you're whatever. You can't do it, oh, you're too overweight, you're not pretty, or whatever, any of those stereotypes or things that you get told your whole life. You're not smart, you're dumb, you'll never do math, you'll never, whatever. Any of those things that I used to feel, how others can make you feel that you have no power or have no chance or you could never do something. So for me to be empowered is I can do whatever I want. If I want to do this, I'm going to do it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter what I look like. It doesn't matter where I came from. I can do whatever I want to do. And it's the truth. If you put your mind to it and you believe it and you connect to that higher power, no matter what you want to call it, and you ask for assistance and then you let it go. But every day you make that step, that focus is always there, and you do the steps you have to do to take you in that direction, because you just can't sit back and think it's magically going to happen. It is magic, but it's magic with movement. You need to do something. You need to do something, even if it's going to buy the candle or the herbs or whatever you need, because you think you have to do it with a spell, to help you create what you want, your change. You're still doing something. It's active. So it's a co-creation. You're working with the power, if you want, or God, or it's a cooperation. You have to do something. It's not just idly waiting for something to drop out of the sky. So yeah, you have to be active in it, but that makes me feel empowered. And if I didn't have that, then my life would be completely different, because I've come so far, even more so now, because I have learned this, and it has taken a lifetime of learning this. What is more important, what you say or how you say it? Well, it's that old thing, you get more with sugar than you do. I think it's probably how you say it. Because if you're going to say something important, it is what you say, but it's the way in which you say it. You could say something very crude, and you're not going to get, even if your intention is in the right place, if you told someone something that they, if they're having a hard time or a troubled time, and you come right out and say, well, you're an idiot, or, why don't you just leave the bum, or whatever, or stop eating all that, stuff, and you won't have your diabetes won't be flaring up, or so it's not exactly what you're saying. I think a lot of people, like the war, I think that's lost on a lot of people now. And people that also start conversations, I think, with, excuse me, or pardon me, or not to be mean, but you are being mean if you're going to say it in that way. I think if you have to apologize for something you're about to say, then you're probably not saying it correctly. There's a way to say something. You could be more supportive. Just don't say it, maybe offer the advice, or, well, you could come with me and we could, shop or do this or whatever, shop for better foods, or come to my gym to work out, or whatever. I'm saying it's physical things, but it's also emotional things. It could be well, why don't you come over and have a cup of tea with me? You know, I mean, I think a lot of things these days, we're so separated because of technology that sometimes just meeting with someone face to face and being there and holding their hand or just listening, and sometimes saying nothing. So I think it's how you say it, because sometimes maybe the best thing is to say nothing as well. Don't say it, just be there and be supportive. I know just with raising teenagers, when I went through the teen years, and even in their 20s, they have to live their own life, and you have to let them make their mistakes, and you'd like to put your 2 cents in before, and I'm just as guilty. When we had the marathon bombing here in Boston, and I remember the marathon after that happened, and my youngest was going to go into the marathon the year after it happened, and I think I gave him a laundry list as he's going out the door. Now, don't do this, don't stand here, don't, be aware of your surroundings, and because it was this, like, you know, you get swept up in the anxiety of everything that happens, and you can get caught up in the fear. And this, even me, and I try, you know, like, oh, I know better than that, you know, but still, we are, you know, human, and we do get swept up sometimes. And I said, and do this and do that, and make sure you this, and make sure you're aware, and, you know, don't drink too much while you're in there, because you don't want to do this or not have your senses about you or get into trouble, or and so he's standing there looking at me, and I said, and have a good time. And he's like, yeah, like, after that entire list, how could I possibly have a good time? And it's like, really? And it's just like, and so we just kind of laughed. I'm like, never mind, you know. It's just like when you really want to say, just stay home, don't go, you know, but you have to live your life. And yeah, and I think especially living in these times, and I noticed my husband is from England, and whenever there's we'd actually talk about the differences, because in England they are and have been exposed to a lot of terror, like more terrorists, like especially with the IRA, and I'm not getting into that. My family's Irish, so I'm not saying this about political, but daily they were more subjected to bombings and stuff like that. I mean, here in the United States, let's be honest, we were very sheltered as far as anything, and not so much now, because you can just turn around and there's all kinds of tragedies happening and things happening in public places, and it's not necessarily any organized groups. Sometimes it's just a person and their ideals. But as a child, like, I never had to worry about, like, you know, a mailbox exploding, or a subway exploding, or anything like that. So I'm talking from my perspective of when I grew up. And yet they went through in England the bombings, and, you know, during World War II, when they were in the subways, and they didn't know whether, and life carried on. And I think that's why that it's such I admire that phrase, carry on, and just keep calm and carry on. And when I just notice when I see things on the news, if anything happens over in England, everybody's so calm, you know, they're walking around, and we're here, it's like, we're all like, you know, it's just a different mindset. And so I think nowadays, if you have to give something to your children, it's probably that. You know, and that's kind of why with my son, I was just kind of laughed and said, well, just carry on. We're just going to go have fun, live your life. You can't not live your life. And so that's like the biggest lesson, I think. So yeah, how you say it, what you do, I just think sometimes we can say too much, is what I was trying to say too. You really do, just sometimes it's best not just say, go have fun. You raise them, especially when it comes to children. And see, that went all over the place. If you're still with me, good. Let's see. Okay, do you believe in heaven or hell? I do not. I believe that when we die, I believe, you know, believe in reincarnation. I believe you can come back. don't have to come back. I don't even believe we're forced to come back, or someone says, well, you need to work on this. I think it's a choice. I think you get back and you think, oh man, did I mess that up again? I like to go back and see if I can do that. But I don't think there's someone saying, you need to go back and do this. So no, I don't believe in an actual heaven. I think when we die and we go on and come back to the greatness that is God, and because I believe we're actually little pieces, sparks of that creator, and I believe when you go back there probably is a feeling of heaven, like complete bliss, because you've been separated, and to rejoin that. And all I can think of is when you're away from home or you're away from family, or you've moved out and that holidays when you go back and you haven't seen your parents or your family, that feeling of coming home. I believe that's what it's like when we die. And I believe that everybody that was part of your family that's no longer, earthly bound with you, I think they're all there and they're all welcoming you back. And I think that's what it is. I don't believe there's a place. If anything, if you want to say this is probably hell. The hell is being separated from God. The hell is if you never remember who you are in this life and you think this is all there is. Spirits that are trapped here and don't go into the light, don't go back to source, I believe that could be a hell. Absolutely. So if you're a trapped spirit and you're living and watching life go on around you and stuck where you died and not moving on, to me that would be hell. But as an actual place, no, I don't believe that. I believe there's alternate realities and alternate universes and beings that we don't even know, and there is good and there is bad, but I don't believe we're condemned to be surrounded by some sort of place, punished. I don't believe that at all. I think we punish ourselves enough. And we don't have that forgiveness, and sometimes that can be hell as well. But yeah, no. Do you live to work or work to live? It's both. I'm fortunate, like I said, I'm a nurse, so I got to do something where I can feel like I make a difference every day. So, and I like that feeling. But any profession that you love and dedicated to, you are making a difference, because even if you're making something for someone else and it's not even direct care of a person, whatever you're making is going to be affecting people. Again, the pebble in the water. So I believe you have to work. I'm not independently wealthy yet. And even if I was, I would, people think, oh, you have all the money in the world and you just can sit back. I don't think anybody just sits back, because that's not really living either. I think everyone has some sort of a purpose and a drive, and that's why, you wouldn't get out of bed every day. Or I think I think it's, I think living and whatever you do is a work, but it's a purpose. So I would say, I work to live, because I think that's part of life. I think when you don't have a goal, a direction, a purpose, then it's very sad, and not a very fulfilling life. So, yeah. Do you trust anyone with your life? Yeah, I would. I say I would. I would trust my husband. I would trust with my life, definitely. And I guess on some level, if you live long enough, you need to be trusting your kids too. As my son always says, be nice to me, I'm picking your nursing home. And then my other son says, I'm never going to put you in a nursing home, Mom. So, yeah, so there you go. Let's see, would you consider yourself an extrovert or an introvert? Oh, an introvert, definitely. I'm a Virgo. and I love researching and knowledge, and I'm very inside. I can be when I'm comfortable and know people. I love to laugh and have a good time, but I'm not that. I have to know you for that to happen. You're just not going to meet me and see like a crazy side of me. But once you do, so I guess that's different, isn't it? I guess I am a bit of both. But I do have a lot of the hermit. That's my card. And that is me. I am very much the hermit. But again, that can be dangerous. And so, but when I am out and with family or friends, and you do know me, I think I do have a kind of a goofy sense of humor. Do you believe in true love? Yes, I do. I met my husband in such a way. We met over the internet, actually, and everything that fell into place and the way it happened and the story behind it, absolutely. I believe in soulmates and true love. And if you're going to meet someone, it doesn't matter where they are, especially nowadays. Maybe that would not be true years ago when people couldn't travel or not even travel. I mean, the internet the World Wide Web has opened it up so that you can have friends all around the world. And I did hear on the radio that even young adults that are gaming and playing video games online have friendships all over the world, and they did a study, I guess, and they're just as meaningful. These friendships are just as meaningful and deep and rewarding, and the reciprocation between them, what each is getting from knowing and experiencing and considering themselves their friends, is just like a real, someone that they could meet in their everyday life physically, and that bond of friendship is just as real and just as important. So yeah, in this day and age, I think anything is possible. You can meet anybody, and yes, so I believe in it, and I believe more than ever it's more possible to meet your soulmate, just because the world is not so big anymore. How do you think the world will change in 10, 50, or 100 years? Oh, well, I just think the way technology has changed, even from when I grew up, or even when I was having my kids. I mean, when I was having my children, there was no internet, there was no cell phones, and look what's happened in the span of 20-something years. It's like incredible. So I think we're just going to continue to get more advanced as far as technology. I think transportation will change, housing will change. It's going to have to. And I think it'll be, unrecognizable. It'll be the same kind of, like when I go back and think of how it was when I was a kid, it's almost like, when kids can't believe like you had a TV, one that was, we had one of the first color televisions, but the majority of the shows were still black and white. So it didn't matter you had a color TV. There was only certain shows that were in color, black and white. So, and it wasn't, the TV actually shut off at night. There was nothing to watch. Just how far we've come in a short amount of time in my lifetime, and what happened in my parents' lifetime, I can't even imagine. I just think it's going to be amazing. I do think probably the biggest challenge is society keeping up with these changes and how you deal with technology and the consequences. And that's the challenge, and who knows where that's going to bring us. So I don't know what it's going to be like, but I can see it, drastic changes. Some good and some bad. If you had the option to know the date and circumstance of your death, would you? No. I wouldn't want to know if someone told me. And I'm actually kind of living that anyways. Cancer ran in my father's family, breast cancer. He lost all of his sisters, his aunts to breast cancer. And I lost my sister to breast cancer. And I have, over the course of my life now, with genetic testing now that's available, I've had, doctors ask me if I want to be tested. One of my other sisters has been tested, and I say no. I pretty much don't want to know or think about that. Again, that's my personal belief is how you live your life, and I don't need to know. It doesn't matter to me. I feel like everyone's going to die from something, and I don't want to. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that information exactly? Yeah. So, because I know that, and basically that's what, when my sister didn't ask me, but my other sister said, don't, about it, would I consider it? And for me, no, I don't need to know. I don't need to know that. Or I think if you have that information, then you need to do something about it, I guess. I don't know. And like I said, I don't even know exactly what you would do. But I know what my sister's choices have been. So, but for me, no. So I probably put that in that category. Would I want to know? Do I want to know? I've lost people to accidents and disease. So to me, I'm focused on living every single day. And it keeps me mindful of living in the present and being aware and thankful, so that if it was my last day, I've done all I could to make this the best day, and I live each day like that. So my biggest thing is not to have regrets. And that's why I don't let arguments dwell or carry on, because you never know. And nothing is really worth having someone upset, or you being upset with them, because this could be the last day you could be there with them, and so that's not really a nice thing to be left with. So you live your life like it's the last, and then you won't live with no regrets, and that's the way I feel. What is something something that you are sure you will never experience? For me, I know I will never experience climbing a mountain. Yes, I'm afraid of heights. And yeah, it does not sound like fun. Not what I would ever want to do it. So no, yeah, that's something I know I will never experience, because the whole height thing is wouldn't do it. What impression do you think you give when you meet someone? Probably reserved, because when I'm meeting someone for the first time, I'm very quiet. And sometimes someone might take that as being standoffish, or maybe I'm being a snob, but it's just because I'm a Virgo, and you basically never feel. You're constantly fighting that you're not good enough, or if is my hair okay, or I shouldn't have worn this outfit, or I look like a goof, or whatever. I mean, anything. You can just feel my makeup's not right, or I look like a bit, yeah, you're always thinking the worst. You never think you're going to be good enough anyway. So yeah, so there I am, trapped in my own thoughts, and they think, boy, that's the most odd person standing up there with that glazed look on her face. I don't know, but like I said, probably focused. I'm very probably intense. Maybe someone might think I'm intense. I don't know. How would your perfect partner treat you? With kindness and love. And I don't think you'd want anything else from a partner. That's what I expect. That's what everyone should expect. Kindness and love. What one responsibility you wish you did not have? I think probably it's work related. Over the course of my entire career, from basic nursing and moving into management, I have always been, I have been sought out to be promoted into into a supervisory positions, whether it's a lead charge or a supervisor or whatever. Even recently in the job that I'm currently working, when I first started, I was just a regular, review nurse, reviewing reports and that kind of thing. And then that was like I was very happy because I had come from a supervisor role in my previous job. And it was nice just to be responsible for me. All I had to worry about was my caseload, my reports, my follow-up, my anything, my every single day was my work. I only had to be responsible for me. And that lasted 2 years, and that was like the biggest break I'd had, because I'd had about, I don't know, 15 years of being in supervisory roles of the last 2 jobs I had. So then I went to this job, and it was a welcome break, because you get burnt out being in responsibility, especially in healthcare. And if you're talking about direct patient care and everything, it's very intense and rewarding, but intense. And then when you're on top of it, if you're supervising others to make sure a standard of care is being given, very, very, very stressful. So I've had like 15 like years of that. So, and then to come into this new job, completely different. And then basically I was like, oh my Lord, I'm doing a job that I'm just responsible for me and my work. And it was wonderful. But then what always happens is, seems to me, is someone says, we'd like to have you do this. We'd like you to be a supervisor. And we think that you have all these qualities in your work and you're this. And on one end, it is wonderful to be recognized and appreciated, and for someone to feel that you are qualified to do more. And obviously, like the promotion, and it's good to get that recognition. It is a good feeling. But then, there's a lot that goes with that. So now I'm back in supervisor kind of a role. So not that I don't appreciate it. So don't get me wrong, I do. But there is something to be said when you're only responsible for your own job, and when you are responsible for others and responsible for making sure everything is going the way it's supposed to. But then that's been my life. I was always given more responsibility. And from teachers to everything in my life, I was told, well, I expect that of you. When you usually hear that when you failed, I would be like, well, so-and-so did that, and why, I feel like, I always felt like, well, other people get away with that. Well, we expect more out of you. I heard that a lot. We expect more out of you. So it's a bigger deal when you don't meet that expectation. I always felt that. I always felt like I always had that. You were the sensible one, and I'm the Virgo, worrying about everything and making sure. So when you had moments in your life where you did not meet that standard for whatever reason, one, no one is going to be harder on a Virgo than a Virgo. And in the nursing profession, there are a lot of Virgos. I've worked for a lot of Virgos as well. So yeah, I know what it's like. So when you disappoint a Virgo, you're really disappointing or something. And I have been told that I'm, from people that I've supervised, even though I thought I was I strive to be the understanding. I always would give direction, and this is why we do it this way. I'm not a big person on pointing out mistakes to the point of faults. I'm like, if you make a mistake, I want to see how it happened so we can make sure it doesn't happen again. Not that, oh, look at you, did this wrong, like to punish someone or make them feel bad. Or I always want to be proactive, because we're human. Everybody's going to make mistakes, and not because many people can't get past that. I made a mistake, and the job is to get past it. Yes, you made a mistake. Welcome to humanity. We all do. Now, let's move on. It is not going to change. It's going to change your life, but for the better if you don't learn from it. And I'm a proactive person. How can we keep this from happening again? So yeah, so in a roundabout, long-winded way is my usual. Sometimes it's nice not to have that responsibility. What is something you are embarrassed by because you were good at it? Honestly, I'm not embarrassed by anything because, as I've been saying, I'm a Virgo, so I don't really think I'm good at anything. And if I was good at something, if I truly felt I was good at something, I wouldn't be embarrassed. Yeah, about it. But I'm never really, there's always something I could have done differently or better, and that's just the way I am. How do you recharge? That would be going into my tarot. Sometimes it's just research, reading. I can sit back and watch. I love history. I love theology. I can throw something on the TV if it's about someone's life or history or medicine, or it doesn't even matter what it is. But I can get lost in shows like that. Sometimes it's nice to just let your mind not think about what's going on in your own life, and lost in a book, like I said, or research or anything like that. Any sort of distraction. Being out in nature, I like to be out, sit outside on my deck and just listen to the birds and watch the birds, and or even in the winter when you're stuck in the house, and I look out the window and see the snow on the trees and the animals that are trying to make it through the winter, squirrels and the birds that do stay, watch them, and yeah, anything like that. Anything, spending time with my cat. My cat is a big way that I recharge. She is like a little, she's definitely, I would consider her my familia, because like she's never far from me, and she's like my she keeps me on the straight and narrow, that's for sure. And especially, I would say, as far as de-stressing and recharging, I work from home 3 days a week, and depending on the weather, if the weather's bad, then I'll work from home as well. And that's wonderful, but the tendency also is that you could put in a longer day, because when you're home, you're in your own surroundings, and it gets past, your 8 hours, and then you're into, because you get caught up in something. It's not like you're going to leave the office and get home. So I find that sometimes I work longer hours or start earlier. I want to get a jump on something. And if I'm working from home, I do tend to have longer days. I'm trying to work on that, but she is my little meter. She will come over and whine at me like the minute it's 5 o'clock. It's like, get off that computer. Come over here and spend time with me. Because I sit on the couch in front of TV, or reading, or even if I'm gonna just sit on the couch to read, or she's right there, right up on my lap, or on my chest. She likes to sit on my chest sometimes. She's right there, wanting to be petted. So she's a good distress. She's a way to recharge. I think any sort of animal, but especially they said cats there. You can get a lot of energy off of cats. I find I do. And she does recharge me because it's all about her. And it's very relaxing to pay attention to her. What's one of the things you want to achieve before you die? I would like to achieve something that I don't know, I've always felt like I would love to be part of a foundation, start a foundation of a cause in which I really believed in. And that means like really being able to affect change in people's lives on a big scale. And that would mean like, being able to step in and assist someone at their worst moments of their life, and providing them with anything they needed. And to be part of that, if there was something horrible, a disaster, or something, a loss, and sometimes it's just every day, you know, like if someone loses their job, to be able to go to that person, hey, and offer immediate assistance. I would love to be able to do that, you know, like that Good Samaritan kind of thing, like, oh, what do you need? And I could give it to them. I would love to be able to have that ability, to actually be able to affect people's lives like that. What is something that offends you? I think anything that's cruel offends me. And that goes to even movies. There's certain shows I can't even watch, or movies, because if it's too violent, too cruel. But I think cruelty, being cruel, or witnessing cruelty to people, that offends me. What what part of your culture are you most or least proud of? I don't know. I think if you put my culture, even though I'm like Irish for background, I guess if I think of myself, it's probably more like an American culture. What offends me probably is just the amount of time that in this country where there was and is still some insensitivity to people that are different, and that can be color, race, religion, orientation. That really does offend me when people are made to feel like they're not worthy or put down, or rights aren't given to them. I think that, you know, as far as like if you're taking, it just seems it's taken so long to have equality for everyone. And so as a reflection of my country, I think that is something that is very offensive in my culture as an American, I believe. And the fact that we don't have enough health care or health service for people. And really, I can remember when I was in college, like in one of my psychology classes, and they said, you know, how you treat the least, the people that have the least in a society, how you treat them is a reflection of you. And I think it's very sad if you're going to hold up that kind of a mirror, how you treat people that have nothing. You really should be ashamed. You know, the amount of homeless and the amount of people and that have nothing, and there isn't anything, and why we just can't make that, like, why can't there be a national healthcare system? You know, you can spend all this money on war and billions and billions of dollars on weapons and to destroy and kill, and yet you can't provide healthcare for all of your people and the least fortunate. I don't believe anyone should be homeless unless they wanted to be homeless. The way people with mental health issues are treated, I mean, the list is endless. And in nursing, you come across all branches of society. And being a middle class and growing up in a middle class family as well, it's like you work so hard and you pay so much for your health insurance now. And I would consider myself in this. And then God forbid something happens to you, because you still got to pay more money. It's terrible. It's terrible. You have to put off health care and going to the doctor because you can't afford it. You know, it's terrible. So I'm getting on a soapbox. What do I like about what doesn't? Like I said, I'm going by culture, by being an American. What do I? What am I proud of? I'm proud of the fact that there are some parts of I think that things that we do well here in America, and I'm proud of those things. The whole concept of what the country was founded on, but I think there's a lot lacking. But I wish we could be more. I think what I'm proud of the most is probably the ideals that were started, and I think we could be so much more of that. That's probably what I'm going to say. And like I said, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just my feelings. And you know, I'm a Virgo, so I'm noticing all the things that are more wrong than right with the country. But is there a freedom? Yes. You know, there is. Is it as much as it should be? No. But I know that I am 100% better off living in America than some other parts of the world. You know, I have these choices. I can practice what I can, even here would be considered, you know, people don't get me as far as religion, but I'm able to practice that, and I'm able to not have to hide and be afraid. I can wear my, you know, my pentacle and not be harassed, at least where I'm living. But I know even some parts, that's what I mean. We still have work here, but for the majority, I can do and be what I want as a woman. I can dress any way I want, you know, for the most part. And so for that, yes. And I can speak out, and I can, you know, I have freedoms and abilities that a lot of people do not have around the world. And if I want to change my life, I can. And so yes, we have more opportunities here. Not that you can't change in other places, but it would be more difficult and harsher. So yeah. And what makes you angry about your country? And I think I just covered that too, in that, because to me, culture and country for me are the same. Like I said, I come from Irish background, but I come from a mix: Irish, English, Scottish, Native American. My great-great-grandmother was a Native American Indian. So yeah, I'm a mix of things. So to me, my culture is, you know, an American, I suppose. It's a mix, it's a melting pot, and a little bit of everything. So I'm going to end it here. As usual, it's gone on for almost an hour, but hopefully people will hang in. I thank you if you have, and hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.